was talking about the ascension of Betsy DeVos to be the Secretary of Education, which is probably one of the goofiest appointments ever made in the history of this country. Okay, that's an exaggeration. What do I know about every appointment made in the history of this country? So, but I'll stand behind it. What the hell? Betsy DeVos is not the person who should be running the Department of Education for a number of reasons. I think the first one is because she has thrown so much of her money, $200 million, into the cesspool of Michigan politics, so that when she wanted to push her agenda of Christian, now she won't say that directly, Christian charter schools, Christian private schools, funded either by for-profit corporations or using tax dollars that are supposed to go to public schools. That's been her prime directive. I don't know why, except that she's a religious fanatic, a Christian religious fanatic. That's the only thing I can come up with, that she would want to destroy public education to the degree that she does. She's a very ignorant woman, incredibly ignorant woman. And I think in so many instances, Trump is incredibly ignorant. You look at some of these billionaires who have spent their whole lives manipulating markets, manipulating money, focusing on accumulating ridiculous shit like money. And their brains are focused on that. They have no understanding of all the millions of interactions that are necessary to live a life. They have no idea. But once they get to that point where they have these billions of dollars, all of a sudden they decide they're leaders. I'm a goddamn leader. And so many members of the American public will support that idea. Well, he's got to be a good leader. He's made millions as a businessman. Government is not business. The military is not government. I don't know why we think that when we put in positions, cabinet positions, or positions of legislative power, ex-military generals or current and forever billionaires, that somehow we're going to get good governance. That's bullshit. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that people with a lot of money or people with a military career that took them up to 4-star rank level, that necessarily excludes them. But for the most part, it does. Betsy DeVos, I think, is a classic example. Now, she married into money. I don't know how much money she had, but she married into money, and an awful lot of money. Amway and all that shit, that scam, that pyramid scam that they've been running now for 30 years? But Betsy DeVos is a very ignorant woman. And she's a very arrogant woman, as so many people who think they know how to dictate how children are going to be educated. Now, all she could fuck up to this point was Michigan. Now she's been handed the entire education system of the country. And isn't it right-wingers who always talk about local control of education, which is the way it is right now? You have a local school board, you have a local school district. Guidelines come out of Washington, but here's the catch. The carrot is, look at all the money that we're going to provide for your school district. The stick, actually, the whip, is you're not going to get it unless you do what we tell you to do. The Education Department in Washington has its own website, and there's a page there titled Historically Black Colleges and Universities and Higher Education Desegregation. And the purpose of that page is to offer an accurate history of black education in this country and the shit that black people had to go through just to get educated. Betsy DeVos, like I mentioned earlier this week, I think it was Monday, had this weird explanation of why historically black colleges and universities were created in the United States. And to this addled, brain-dead, willfully ignorant woman, it was because the black folk were, in her words, real pioneers in the school choice movement. Yeah, amen. And she added that they, quote, started from the fact that there were too many students in America who did not have equal access to education, end quote. Well, I'm sure that by now, and I hope it caused her incredible embarrassment, but these rich sons of bitches, these billionaires, I don't care if it's Trump or her or the Commerce Secretary or any of these people, they are immune from embarrassment. It's like, fuck you, I've got $1 billion. What do you got? What do you got? What do you have? I don't have to listen to you. I can buy and sell you all the way back 7, 10, 20 generations. So shut up, go away. Oh, well, that's the way it works in predatory capitalism, right? But the truth is, of course, that the colleges were created beginning in the 19th century as a direct response to the vicious, rigid racial segregation. White colleges and universities and they were closed to African Americans. Are you old enough to remember George Wallace? You old enough to remember Orville Faubus, governor of Arkansas, governor of Alabama? Are you old enough to remember Eisenhower ordering goddamn paratroopers into Arkansas to get black kids registered in white schools? Do you remember that? George Wallace standing in the door, University of Alabama, reading his shitty little statement about states' rights and sovereignty and this and that and the other thing, while waiting a few feet behind him was the military, a whole goddamn platoon of fully armed, combat-ready soldiers, and in the middle, 2 or 3 black college students. Maybe it was 1, 2. I remember those images. Like I said, I was selling newspapers back then and would see the pictures in the paper. But to Betsy DeVos, none of that shit happened. Nah, black folk were pioneers in school choice. But see, the southern states and the border states are going to have none of this integration bullshit. Oh, no.